Take a step back in time with me today as we hop on board one of the most lavish and scenic ways to travel through the heart of South Africa. We'll snake our way through grassy plateaus, the vast Karoo Desert, and the rolling hills and mountains surrounding Cape Town before the end of this journey. Today, we're hitching a ride with Rovos Rail, a luxury sleeper train as we depart from their central station in Pretoria and start a 96-hour odyssey encompassing 4 whole days and 3 nights as we make our way towards the Western Cape. While on board, we'll take in the scenery of this vast nation as we experience world-class dining and luxury accommodations in an opulently appointed train. This luxury train creates an atmosphere that is reminiscent of a bygone era when travel wasn't simply about getting to your destination. It was about reaching that destination with elegance and a level of service that is hard to come by in this day and age. While en route, we'll experience fine dining in the lavishly appointed dining cars. We'll enjoy cocktails while making memories with new friends in the open-air observation car. And we'll unwind with a book in the cozy confines of the lounge car. Now, it's time for us to make our way over to the expansive Rovos Rail station in Pretoria and check on board one of the world's most luxurious train journeys. This morning, we find ourselves in the crisp, cool South African air as we begin our journey at the extensive Rovos Rail Pretoria rail yard. Here, we're welcomed out of the cool air by a staff member at the front door of the building. As my bags are tagged, they're quickly whisked away by a staff member, as I needn't worry about them. They'd meet up with me later once I'd settled into this train. I'm ushered into this luxurious reception area, where I'm quickly offered a glass of champagne as staff ensure that my documents are all in order. As I wait, I'm told that there is a museum full of all sorts of railroad memorabilia, and that I'm welcome to visit it while I wait for the other guests to arrive. I decide to take them off on their offer, and I walk a short way to visit the Rovos Rail Museum. The museum is full of not only railroad memorabilia, but also ship models, model trains, and other interesting items. Alright, so we're here at the Rovos Rail Yard. Just gone through check-in. It was a pretty seamless process. Showed up, they offered a pre-departure beverage, sparkling wine, water, selection of juices. They took our paperwork. It was pretty fast, and then they said that we could go check out the museum, which I've just done. I'm now walking back to the, I guess, rail check-in station. Rail station, I guess. And then there's going to be a bit of a rail tour. It's lovely weather today, and happy to bring you along with me on this rail journey. Back at the rail depot, I enjoy the open-air veranda as I admire the train laid out before me. As I continue to enjoy the refreshments provided at the welcome reception, curiosity gets the best of me, and I find myself exploring the platform. I am just doing a little bit of walking around the platform. I'm going to explore, see if I can go find the front of the train, see the locomotive before we get going. It takes me a few short minutes before I'm back at the reception area, and by the time I'm there, we're being handed out safety vests and whisked off on a tour of the whole rail yard by Rohan Voss himself, the man who started this outfit as a family business back in 1989. Through 30 years, his family has grown from a few rail cars refurbished out of a hobby to the extensive network of trains that it is today. As we navigate the labyrinth of the shops of the rail yard, we're led behind the scenes through the shops where each rail car used on this train is stripped down to bare metal and built back up into the glory and grandeur of the forgotten era from which they came. It's so impressive to see what all of these rail cars have gone through to make them the way that they are now. Every single detail on these trains is custom made in-house, from the window shades to the toilet seats and the finely appointed common and dining cars throughout the train. Now that we have a behind-the-scenes look at what goes into the operations of this train, let's hop on board this train and start our journey. I'm personally led from the reception area to my cabin where I'll be spending the next 4 days on my way to Cape Town. Each cabin on this train has an individual name, and the cabin I'll be in for this journey is named Rorke's Drift, though it would take me 2 days on board before I finally learned what this cabin was actually named after. As I step inside my cabin, I'm immediately impressed by the dark wood decor. It's as if I'm teleported back to a time when rail travel was the norm. It's hard to step foot into these rooms and not be impressed by the craftsmanship that went into crafting them, especially after seeing the shop where all these were constructed. We've just been shown to our room. We just got settled in, and after about 5 minutes for everybody to get settled into their rooms in small little batches, the train is just now starting to pull away from the beautiful Rovos Rail Station, and we're going to start our next 3 days of our trip into Cape Town. As I settle into my room, we're off, past the reception area and away on our trek across the country towards our destination in Cape Town. As we pull out of the rail yard, the train rounds a bend, and for the first time out of many, as we make our way to Cape Town, I'm able to see the entire train. And I'll be the first to tell you that no, it doesn't get any less impressive the longer you spend on the train. From the lounge cars to the cabins and all the way up to the staff cars in the front of the train, this train is absolutely massive. Take a second to show you around everything that we've got in this room. Alright, on coming in the door, you've got this big full-length mirror, light switches. We've got a bit of a wall locker here, which I haven't quite been able to fully access yet because there's this binder here that's in the way. But everything is set up very well. You get these tags here for hanging outside the door to let the staff know what you want to have done. Down here, there's a little bit of a mini fridge that can be stocked with anything that you want. Got a tea setup. Each of our windows, our room has these shutters that go up and down. Plenty of storage space. Lovely mahogany finish. Old newspaper clippings for artwork. There's 2 reading lights here by the bed. And as you can see, there is plenty of storage space up above for my camera bag, my duffel, and my suitcase. In the head here, we've got we have a toilet, we have a sink. It's got its own window. That loo with a view feeling. And then we have our own ensuite shower. Very nice. Small shower. And next to it we have a nice hanging wardrobe. Oh, that is wonderfully sized. So as it looks like, we don't even have to go into the other wardrobe. Now that we've explored the room a bit, let's kick back and enjoy the views out the window as we settle into our room for the next 3 days. Sitting here watching the miles of country roll away before me, I can't help but feel an extreme sense of relaxation. For the next few days, I'll just be sitting here, enjoying the views unfolding before my very eyes. As I sat there, I decided that this would be the perfect time to explore the mini fridge in my room. Each room on this train has one, and it can be stocked with anything you desire. Every day of this Rovos Rail journey, you're provided a request card and can ask for anything to be placed in this fridge. Starting on our journey today seemed like the perfect opportunity to try out a glass of sparkling wine, which had already been placed in my room. As I continued to admire the miles of track outside the window, I sipped on my glass of sparkling wine, completely unaware of the wine selection that I had yet to experience in the dining car. Oh, and one more thing. These windows can be completely lowered. Naturally, I had to peek my head out the window to get a better vantage point of the train. Or maybe I was just doing it because it was there. I don't know. You tell me. As we continued to snake our way across the countryside, it was time to head to the dining car for our first lunch service. I know I've mentioned how big this train is, but I don't think it really sank in until I got completely lost trying to navigate my way to the dining car from my room. Once I got there, I was met with the most immaculate table settings, which would become normal on this train as the journey went on. But this afternoon, I was awestruck by the elegance and the level of service provided by the Rovos Rail staff. Even for a lunch service, we were offered a full 5-course selection, complete with an amuse-bouche, a salad, main course, cheese plate, and a decadent chocolate cake for dessert. Each individual course of this meal even came paired with its own wine selections. It was at this point when I found myself wishing that I had one less glass of sparkling wine before coming to lunch, because the wines offered at lunch were absolutely spectacular. What an introduction to the type of service I could come to expect from Rovos Rail by the end of this trip. By the time service had ended, I needed to head to the lounge car at the back of the train, if only to get a few extra steps in following this meal. As I made my way to the back of the train, I passed well-appointed reading cars stocked with books and board games, and even a smoking lounge for passengers who smoke. The lounge or observation car itself is a gem at the back of the train. Well appointed with plenty of cozy chairs and tables, it comes complete with a bar and wait staff available to offer you whatever drink you desire. This afternoon they even offered us afternoon tea service, as if I needed to be eating anything else after that last meal. However, unable to resist, I had some tea and some cakes before I made my way back to my room to relax for a minute, before getting changed for this evening's supper meal service. Now that I'm fully adorned in a coat and tie, I'm ready to make my way back to the dining car. Evening meal services on this train are a bit of a formal affair, keeping with the elegant style of yesteryear. All guests are asked to dress up for supper. I personally think this is a great way to add some flair to the capstone of each day on the train. Arriving at the dining car, I was absolutely blown away by the added ambiance provided to the dining car by the evening lights as opposed to the brighter environment provided at lunch service. This, plus the formal attire required of the meal service, set an air of refinement preceding the meal. Once seated, we were immediately offered a glass of water and the first of many wine offerings for this meal. This was immediately followed by a delicious mini quiche starter and a quinoa salad, which both served as a wonderful preamble to the main course. The main course for this evening was of roast duck, and it was very juicy and absolutely delicious. As we waited for dessert, we were offered a dessert brandy, and before long, a small tart was brought out for dessert. I arrived back to my cabin to find that my room had been completely transformed in my absence. The bed, which was a settee not an hour earlier, was now made up as a full double bed, complete with towels folded into a bow tie shape, as a little bit of garnish to add to the already exquisite presentation of this cabin. As I change out of my suit from the meal, I slip into the provided slippers and the dressing robe before heading into the ensuite bathroom to brush my teeth in preparation for bed. Unlike some of the slippers I've been provided by airlines in the past, these slippers provided by Rovos Rail actually fit my rather large feet, a detail that is subtle, but so appreciated since I rarely fit into provided slippers when traveling. With the first day of this journey behind me, I slip off to bed, and after the most restful sleep I've ever gotten on a train, I'm awoken to the sun rising over the South African landscape out the window. Once again, I adorn the provided dressing robe and head off to the ensuite bathroom. It's time to see just how refreshing a private shower on a train can feel. Not only am I able to have a shower in the privacy of my own cabin, but I'm able to do so with a virtually limitless supply of water. And not only that, the water is warm and has plenty of water pressure to go around. Refreshed from my morning shower, I'm back to the dining car yet again to see what Rovos Rail has to offer for their breakfast spread. Breakfast on Rovos Rail is a much less formal affair than the two meals I'd previously had. There is no set seating time for breakfast on the train. It's more of a seat-yourself kind of affair. This is a detail that I very much appreciate because it adds to the relaxed nature of this train journey. If you're like me and you prefer to sleep in, you can do just that. Following breakfast, it's back to my cabin for my favorite train-borne activity, which is staring out the window. I arrive back to my room that is set back up as a settee perfect for lounging, and before I know it, I'm back over to the dining car for lunch service. As we wait for the lunch meal to begin, the train director made an announcement. Apparently, the train didn't make as much progress throughout the night as had originally been anticipated. You see, these tracks are electrified, and most of the time the train is able to move using 2 electric locomotives. However, occasionally through something that is called load shedding, the power lines are switched off, and Rovos Rail must switch out the electric locomotives with diesel locomotives. This is a time-consuming process that has left us a half a day's journey shy of where we were intended to be. This delay has put this afternoon's planned excursion off to visit the town of Kimberley in jeopardy, but I'm not too concerned since I'm loving every single minute of the service on board this train. Today's lunch is exactly on point with the expectation that has been set throughout this trip, and the duck I'm served is absolutely tender and delicious. Following the main course, I'm offered another cheese plate, this time featuring goat cheese, and an absolutely succulent orange charlotte for dessert. As I finish enjoying my meal, I'm informed that a plan has been made to salvage this afternoon's excursion. We'd be let off the train and bused for approximately 45 minutes into Kimberley, where we'd explore before meeting back up with the train back at Kimberley Station. I have to give a ton of credit to Rovos Rail for not only being able to solve a problem on the fly, but also for having the fluidity to adapt and use a vast resource network to enact a solution. Due to the late hour in the afternoon, our excursion to Kimberley is short-lived with just over an hour to explore the Big Hole Mine and the replica mining town surrounding it. We're bused back to the station where we're greeted by a champagne toast to herald our arrival back on the train before we start our trek past a multitude of cars before we finally find our car and a door that is open through which we are able to board. Back on board, it's time to get dressed up again for supper as we await our departure from Kimberley. This departure, however, would be a little bit delayed, you see. As the train was waiting for us at Kimberley Station, the glass door accessing the lounge car was broken in and several bottles of alcohol were stolen. Despite this theft, at no time were we or our belongings at risk of harm, and Rovos Rail was once again able to use their vast network of resources to find a glass repair shop at 6 p.m. and to have them fix the door in just over an hour. That in and of itself is the most impressive accomplishment in my opinion. I doubt I would have been able to accomplish the same outcome were my window broken in my own house. And here, we're talking about replacing an entire custom train window. After supper, it's right off to bed for me. I have to rest up if I'm going to enjoy every bit of the third day on this train. A few short hours later, I'm back up, and there's no rush to get off to the dining car since breakfast is a seat-yourself affair, and I'm also feeling a little lazy following another phenomenal train shower. This morning, I choose to lounge around my room for a little while, enjoying the views out the window for the millionth time. This is just perfect. I think I'll sit here for a little while. After all, this journey is all about relaxing and unwinding from the fast pace of the modern world. It is day 3, morning 2 on the train. I woke up pleasantly surprised to find that we've actually made a good bit of progress last night. The last couple days, just the issues with the rail network, we've been stopping maybe once every 30 minutes, but it seems like through the night we made a good bit of progress towards our next stop. So I just sat here for a little bit, taking in some of the scenery. It's changed a little bit. It's kind of a little bit of scrub brush and planes going by, and I'm about to head out and grab some breakfast. Back to the dining car we go to see just what's in store for breakfast today. I think I'll start off with a fresh cup of Kenyan coffee with some bread as I wait for my order to be taken. Each morning there's a specialty offered. However, Rovos Rail offers the option to request anything you like and have it prepared for breakfast. I quite enjoyed the omelet that I ordered yesterday, and far be it from me to argue with a classic, so without delay, I requested the exact same omelet again for this morning's breakfast. There's nothing quite like taking your morning coffee with a view, and as I watched the miles of the Karoo Desert pass before me, I decided it would be a wonderful idea to head back to the observation car and make myself another cup of coffee. This time I went with a cappuccino, and I'll say that the staff did quite a marvelous job of preparing it. As I sipped on my drink, I picked up the morning paper. Rovos Rail takes the time to print the news and offers a selection of local newspapers in the observation lounge for passengers to read. Thinking this to be a great time to catch up on the South African news that I most certainly knew very little about, I picked one up. I guess it at least gave me a bit of an air of being in the know, at least for a few minutes this morning. For lunch today, Rovos Rail continues on their mission of impressing me. We're served a starter of melon and parma ham with a balsamic reduction. Herb king lip on a tabbouleh salad with hummus and coriander yogurt is served as a main course before a cheese plate with a selection of cheeses with tomato and chili jams is brought out. For dessert, we're capping it all off with a mini berry pavola with whipped cream. I'm beyond impressed that the staff are not only able to prepare this meal in such a small galley, but they are able to plate so many meals at once with such a fine degree of precision to boot. Despite making great time through the night, we're still a little bit behind schedule going into the afternoon on the third day of this excursion. As such, our planned stop in the town of Majesfontein hasn't happened yet, but we're assured that we'll be there by the middle of the afternoon. While I wait, I think I'll take this afternoon to catch up on some reading, and with that, I'm off to the reading car to kick back and read a selection of books provided by Rovos Rail. It's here that I grab a book and finally learn the story behind the namesake of the room that I'm staying in. I'll take a break from my reading to head back to the observation car and talk amongst the other passengers over a refreshing cocktail as we watch the desert pass behind us. Seated back here in the back of the train in the open air, I feel a sense of adventure as I feel the wind blow past my face. While the rest of the train might be elegant and relaxing, it's here where I really get a sense of the geography passing before me. Before long, we're stopping just shy of Majesfontein to let some passengers off so they can partake in a 5-kilometer hike into the town. Since the land seems rather flat and the views less than breathtaking, I like to stay on the train and partake in the afternoon tea as I await our arrival into the town. To pull into the town of Majesfontein, where we'll get off, we'll do a little walk around, and then we'll hop back on. Now let's hoof it up to the mid-train lounge where the staff have laid out a ramp to disembark the train. We're off and walking along a very well-kept train station, through a passageway and onto the streets of Majesfontein. Just look at this town. If it looks a little bit like a resort, that's because it largely is. Originally founded as a stopover for trains passing between Cape Town and Kimberley, today this town of only 422 people largely centers around the majestic Lord Milner Hotel and is a national landmark to boot. The entire town is seemingly a carryover from the Victorian era, fitting since we're on a train which derives its entire design concept from that same era. As I walk around, I'm starting to see some fitting similarities here. I'm doing a little bit of walking around and exploring. It's a nice, cute little town. I'm enjoying this brief little reprieve from the train to be able to walk around. Down this road and see the front of the train. I might be successful and I might not. This train is very lengthy. And yeah, do a little bit more exploring and see what we can see. A gravel path along the track provides me an opportunity to walk all the way from the locomotive to the observation lounge car for the first time since we left the station in Pretoria. And just like I said earlier in the video, the expansive length of this train is just as impressive now as when we left Pretoria. When I arrived at the back of the train, however, I'm met with a much greater appreciation of the journey as I reflect on the good memories and conversations made on the observation deck. Since I've clearly walked all the way outside of town at this point, yes, the train is actually longer than the town itself. It's a bit of a hike to get back into town. But I'm glad I made it because it gives me a chance to see some of the residential streets and make my way to the Transportation Museum. This museum is full of relics from a past era, everything from fire engines to cars and even more antique rail cars, an homage to the town's era as a train stopover. Now let's get back to the train station and hop back on board before we begin our final night on the train. The train's just about to pull away from the station, but I'm going to head back to the lounge car, have some drinks before supper, and then it's time to get dressed up and ready for dinner. Back in the lounge car, I'm lounging on the back deck and sipping on a gin and tonic as I watch the town of Majesfontein fade away behind the train. As I admire the desert transform into rolling hills, I'm hit with a melancholy feeling that this will be my final afternoon on this train. I've enjoyed this journey so much and I really wish that it wouldn't end at this point. As I enjoy the last moments on my journey, I'll head up to the reading car one last time and try to finish my book. As lavishly appointed as the reading car is, I find that it's seldom used except by passengers passing through on their way to the lounge car. Naturally, being the introvert that I am, this actually really appeals to me, as it offers me some time alone to meditate and reflect on my thoughts. Eventually I head back to the observation deck again to take in the sunset, and it's not long before more people join me back here, and we dive deep into conversation as the heat of the day fades out into the cool evening air. As I watch the sun dipping below the horizon, I find myself wondering if there is a better way to take in the entirety of the South African landscape than where I am right now, watching the sun dip below the rolling hills surrounding me. It's not long before the gong is sounded, heralding us into the dining car for our final and possibly most elegant meal of this journey. Immediately as I enter the dining car, the ambiance is palpable. Each table is adorned with a candle, as tonight's service would be candlelit. This touch absolutely sets the mood and elevates this particular meal as something special. Since this is the last meal on the train, Rovos Rail is pulling out all the stops to ensure that our last supper on board is a special one. Every single bite of my meal is an absolute sensation, and as I find myself deep in conversation with new friends, I relish every minute of this meal. As the meal is concluded, we're offered an invitation to join the staff back in the lounge car for custom cocktails and a warm send-off that would take us late into the night before I finally made my way back to my cabin for a few hours of sleep. I arrive at the dining car this morning following a bit of packing, as we'd be arriving in Cape Town early this morning. After being seated, I start with my usual Kenyan coffee and a selection of breads, which I follow off with a nice glass of orange juice and an omelet. As I sit at my table enjoying my coffee and what would be my last meal on board, I reflect on the journey that I've had. From the moment I arrived in the station in Pretoria 3 days ago, I haven't had to stress or worry about a single thing. Rovos Rail has extensively planned out every detail of this trip, from the obvious details, such as catering, room service, and even the custom-designed amenity kit provided in my room, to the less obvious details such as repairing an unexpected broken window on the fly or adapting to the ever-fluid schedule of a train on the South African rail network. Through all of this, Rovos Rail presented a refined and steady product, reassuring us passengers that we needn't worry about a single thing. Management of this train really is just the icing on the cake. It allowed me to really sink in so that I can relax and enjoy every minute of this trip. Sure, the trip itself was by far not the speediest way to travel to Cape Town, but the environment, the experiences, and the friends that I made along the way made up for it. I hope that in the future, the stars align and I get another chance to take a trip with Rovos Rail because this trip was a trip that I'll remember for a very long time. As we pulled into the Cape Town station, staff retrieved our bags for us and instructed us to wait for a final send-off. When the moment arrived, I stepped off the train for the last time and made my way down the platform, pausing one last time to admire the train. I said my goodbyes to the staff and the friends I met along the way and turned, walking into the misty Cape Town morning and away from an experience that will be difficult to beat. Once again, I want to give a huge thank you to the staff and administration of Rovos Rail. You provide an exceptional product which certainly wouldn't be available without the help of every one of you, from the technicians in the shop to the staff on the train. Your work has provided a product that rivals the most exclusive train journeys in the world. Thank you for joining me on today's journey. I'm so happy to be able to bring you along with me on my travels. If you enjoyed the video, please like my video and subscribe to my channel so that I can bring you along with me on adventures to come. Your insight and encouragement helps me to grow this channel and continue to share my experiences. I hope that you have a stellar time as you go about your own travels, and until I see you next time, so long for now.